The Unplayable Podcast is proudly presented by Qantas, the official podcast partner and the official airline partner of Cricket Australia. Once again this season, Qantas is proud to be flying Australia's cricketers as they take on the world. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Unplayable Podcast. My name is Josh Schonafinger, joined today by Louis Cameron, the old team joining forces once again. Lou, Kane Richardson is off this week, so we've got you back in to take the reins. How are you, mate?
I'm good. I reckon if this trade was being analysed as closely as what they are in another rival sporting code right at the minute in their trade week, the Unplayable Podcast would have, it's a bit of a demotion. You're losing about 199 games of T20 experience in Kane Richardson, 34 first-class games you're losing, and a lot of cricket knowledge. But I'll do my best, Josh.
Good. That's good to hear. That's all we can ask, that we get the best out of you. Let's start with a weekly winner. You can start with a real strong one here, mate. Who took your eye this week?
It has to be Oliver Peake. I think we're coming off a really interesting Shield round where a lot of interest is rightly centred on the candidates to be playing for Australia this summer. Oliver Peake probably isn't quite at that level yet, but he's really impressing. 2 first-class games. He's impressive both. He really impressed Western Australia when he played against them in the last game of last season, and then this game against South Australia, really tricky last innings chase. Victoria were in quite a lot of trouble, and him, along with Fergus O'Neill, got Australia home. The kid is only 18 and he's been compared to Mike Hussey. And Mike Hussey wasn't Mike Hussey until he played, hundreds of games, and he was in his 30s. So that bodes extremely well. And I'm feeling super old, Josh, because I played cricket against his dad, Clinton Peake. So I'm now covering another generation below the people I played against.
Great to see from Ollie Peake. And if you haven't seen the highlights of his knock, they're all there on cricket.com.au, of course. Just composure for a teenager in a pressure situation against the reigning champs, Lou. He looked like as cool as a cucumber out there. He's
unbelievable. Yeah, it's exciting to see. Like we're talking a little bit about those. We're talking a lot about the Australia Under-19 World Cup winners from early 2024. A lot, Qantas, Peake, now Harjas Singh, who I know you're excited to chat to a bit later. And a lot of others. So it's an exciting class, and they're all starting to come into their own. So, who's your weekly winner, Josh?
Well, it was easy to go for Harjas Singh, but I'm not going to go for him because, there is a chat with him coming up later on this episode. I've gone with the flying insects of Colombo, Lou. Are you across what happened there in the India-Pakistan match in the World Cup?
I might have missed this one.
Well, after 34 overs of the first innings of that match, which is in Colombo, a swarm of flying insects descended on the ground there at the Premadasa Stadium, so much so that play couldn't continue. They had to delay it for 15 minutes. A man in a gas mask and a big flamethrower sort of thing gassed the whole stadium effectively at least both ends of the pitch. I'm not sure how that flies with health and safety regulations. But anyway, gas was all over this ground. The players did come out, and the insects returned after about 10 minutes. So obviously they just wanted to watch some cricket. They didn't want to leave the stadium. And the insects, they're going to have this win because they couldn't be denied access to what was India's win over Pakistan there.
Do we know what type of insects they were?
No, I haven't been able to talk to a biologist who's been able to determine that. But, there have been instances of bee swarms going over fields and those sorts of things. But this was a little bit different because they came and they stuck around and they just wanted to watch a bit of cricket.
That's extraordinary. My experience in Sri Lanka is that crows are often more of a problem than any insects. I think we were pretty careful around like dengue fever and that kind of thing. You don't want to get bitten by mosquitoes when you're a Westerner in that part of the world. But crows were, you'd find a really lovely restaurant, by the sea potentially and want to eat outside. And then as soon as your food came, these crows just lurked waiting for some scraps. So insects are far worse than that.
Let's stay on the theme of the Women's World Cup because there's plenty of action going on. That tournament is now over a week old. Australia, they're one win from their 2 matches. The other match, of course, was a washout against Sri Lanka. No play was possible. And now they are playing Pakistan also in Colombo. That's tonight as we're recording this on Wednesday. So by the time this podcast comes out, the result will be known. Hopefully they do get some play because forecast is looking a little dicey there in Sri Lanka at the minute. But all the coverage will be, of course, on cricket.com.au and the CA Live app. Laura Jolly's over there, as well as M. Collin for the social side of things. It's exciting stuff. Lou and the Aussies have started well, namely Ash Gardner, who a week ago scored that amazing 77-ball 100 against New Zealand, and it's a great sign for the depth of the Australian side at this point in time.
Well, it's a fascinating World Cup, right, for the Aussies. So they're coming off the T20 World Cup where they didn't win last year, which is, shock horror. The Australian women's team didn't win a World Cup. They are, of course, the 50-over reigning champions going back to 2022. So, but it's interesting the style they want to play, and I think this New Zealand game was a perfect encapsulation of it. Beth Mooney's talked about wanting to break records. We know that they passed the 400 mark in the bilateral series against India leading into this World Cup, but it looked like it was backfiring on them. They're batting first against New Zealand, 5 for 128, 6 for 192. They recover. So, that's the one side of it. Lots of catches in the ring, and you're kind of thinking, girls, just keep the ball along the ground. Like, you just get yourself to, 280 and you should have enough. But, they're wanting to play a different brand of cricket, and they kept going hard. And, the flip side is Ash Gardner's coming in at 6, Talia McGrath's coming in at 7. Their bowlers can bat. They brought in Kim Garth at the expense of Megan Shute, which is a controversial decision. I'm sure Shute is devastated, but Garth comes in and hits 38 off just about as many balls at the end. She's obviously a better batter than Megan Shute. I think everyone would kind of agree with that. And then Gardner, kept sticking to her guns, and Australia get to 326. So that's going to be really fascinating to see how Australia manage this. Do they reflect on it on the one hand and go, actually we could have just played a little bit more conservatively when we lost 4 or 5 wickets, or do they just kind of keep going baseball style and go even harder?
I like it. We've seen them win for so many years by, posting close to 300 or 250 with lots of wickets in hand. But if you've got wickets in hand and plenty of very talented and aggressive batters in the sheds, why not try and push on to make some totals that are totally out of reach of the opposition teams? And other teams around the world are sort of slowly catching these Aussies, aren't they? The playing field is leveling ever so slightly. So they might think, well, we've got to be proactive here and get on top of it. And that's why Beth Mooney's talking about breaking records for highest totals and highest scores, because that's what's in their mind. And I love that mindset.
Often, the team that's at the forefront of things, or, this is in any industry, like industry leaders are always the ones that kind of get disrupted. And Australia have almost recognised that and kind of going, we don't want to be the taxi industry with Uber coming up behind us. Like who's the team that's looking at things differently, and they keep looking for ways of evolving. And even with the way they talk about their fielding, I love it. Like they're talking about athleticism and powerful throwing and all these kinds of things as being non-negotiables. You kind of think like Australia could win this tournament or could beat the vast majority of teams in this tournament by not doing those things, by picking players who don't back up throws, who aren't pinging the balls at the stumps, who aren't diving on balls near the boundaries. But they're still thinking about that. They're making that an absolute non-negotiable. So I love that they're trying to push the boundaries, not just with their batting, but in every aspect of their play.
Yeah, it's awesome. Now, Australia play India in Vizag on Sunday. That's going to start at 8:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. Of course, all those matches live and free on Prime Video. You don't need to have a paid subscription to watch those matches. As long as you've got an account, you can watch. So Australia, India, that's a big one. That's going to be the biggest match of the group stage, no doubt. And that's happening on Sunday, October 12, Lou. There have been some other big results throughout the tournament so far, including the boil-over, which I certainly didn't see coming. South Africa getting rolled for 69 to England, who obviously struggled so poorly or struggled so much at the Ashes last season, but they appear to have turned things around, the English.
They did, yeah, and looked like they did their research. They picked 2 left-arm spinners in, Sophie Eccleston, obviously, who's a walk-up start to the team, but then Lindsay Smith is the one who did all the damage in the power play, bowling left-arm spin and angling the ball at the stumps and bowling pretty fast and straight. and it worked beautifully. South Africa apparently had a bit of a weakness against left arm spin, and they exploited that beautifully. So it looks like they've bounced back already by beating New Zealand, who I thought looked the goods in the first innings, before I went to bed against Australia. Their bowling looked quite disciplined, and obviously Sophie Devine is in excellent touch with the bat as always. I wouldn't write off South Africa, but 69 all out is pretty surprising. England then in the next game got pretty lucky with beating Bangladesh. They kind of only just limped over the line. Heather Knight was given out 3 times, and then and one of them, she was halfway off the field and thought she was out on a court decision. So some interesting little upsets, and it's good because some of these historically, like your Bangladesh's and maybe even your Sri Lankas without Chamari Adapadu, you never thought they really stood a chance against England, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, but now they're pushing them a little bit more. So things have evened up a little bit, but it's going to be a battle of the heavyweights when Australia face India in one of the best games of the tournament, I'd say, in Vizag.
Yeah, I love what Knight said after that game. Apparently, Alice Capsey had already passed her. So the batters had crossed before Knight was called back. And then after the game, Knight was obviously asked about that most controversial one. And she said, I thought it had carried and I thought it was a fair catch. And that's why I walked off. Obviously, the TV umpire decided otherwise. So 3 reprieves for her. She finishes on 79, not out. And now the English are unbeaten as well at this point in time.
Yeah, and crossroads for England, of course, after the shellacking that they got in Australia last summer. They've clearly, done a pre-season camp down at Bondi Beach and worked on their athleticism and picked some more athletic fielding players. So that's really good to see.
Just a reminder that the World Cup continues on Amazon Prime Video. You can catch all the action there. Lou, 35 sixes on the weekend for Harjas Singh for the Western Suburbs. Some unbelievable hitting. As you said, he was part of that World Cup winning squad a couple of years ago, or almost 2 years ago. I had a chat to him earlier in the week about that knock and just how he's feeling after a 300 in a 50-over match. Right, we're joined by Harjas Singh after his unbelievable knock of 314 on the weekend for Western Suburbs. Mate, how have the last couple of days for you been? It must have been a complete whirlwind.
Oh, they've been absolutely unbelievable. Like the attention, the media, all the messages I'm getting, it's been all great. And it's just been unbelievable, to be honest.
Did you receive more messages after this innings or more after winning the World Cup 2 years ago?
Oh, this for sure.
Let's talk about the innings because obviously it's, a once in a generation, it seems like, maybe even more. 35 sixes, only 2 players in the last century have scored 300 in the Sydney New South Wales Premier first grade competition. And I had a look at the scorecard. It took you 10 overs to even get out to the middle. So have you had a word to the openers about maybe getting in there a bit earlier?
No. The openers are great for us. Nick and Josh, they're absolutely unbelievable. And, yeah, I'd rather them not change anything else.
What do you put it down to an innings like that when everything clicks? How do you sort of put your finger on what went right and obviously nothing too much went wrong?
I think it's been like a series of events. I think over the course of the last 2 years, of course, after that World Cup win, like not being contracted was, again, disappointing. But again, I don't think I deserved one. So that sort of fueled the fire as well. For sure, the training that's been put into the pre-season, I think, has definitely helped as well. So it's been something that's been building up for a bit. Definitely something that, again, I wasn't aiming to do. I was more sort of just, looking to get 100 as most batters do. And then after that, I was just throwing Hail Marys and just trying to hit everything for 6. And, it was just one of those days where it just came off and it was unbelievable.
And so what happened in the pre-season? What sort of things did you work on specifically? And, were there any people that maybe you've worked with who have really helped you sort of hit your stride this season?
I think there was a couple main things, like a couple things that I worked on. I think one big thing was just on the mental side of the game where how do I focus on what I do from a Monday to Friday point of view rather than what's going to happen on a weekend? So I think that was one of the big mental shifts that got placed for me, where what do I do to prepare the best I can from Monday to Friday to do the best I can, and whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And there was a lot of power hitting stuff that I worked quite hard on with my coach Darius at Hype Cricket.
Mm-hmm.
I worked quite closely with Mick Reynolds, my coach here at Kingsgrove, on the technical side of the game. Amrinder, my breathwork coach, who again that sort of involves the mental side, where it's like, how do I use my breathing and to regulate my nervous system, how to calm down those nerves, how to pretty much, keep myself at baseline as much as possible. I think those were, the main things that I sort of had to work on.
Wow. And have you always been a big hitter? Because, I mean, looking at these sixes, some of them are absolutely massive. Has that always been a part of your game?
I've always been bigger and stronger than a lot of other people, and I think that has sort of shown from a young age. And I've always been able to do it. It's just depending on how much how consistently and then for how long I can do it. And Saturday was just one of those days where everything, again, as you said, just went right. And yeah.
When you got to the 100, I saw that there was a bit of a celebration, 2 thumbs up. Was there any sort of meaning behind that?
Oh, it was something that me and our keeper, Oliver Hing, sort of thing. Like I've been saying this one thing, like just happy for no reason. Just like anything would be going on, I'll just say happy. And then there's actually a story where actually I should probably keep that for just keep that for some of the boys. Might tell you after the pod's finished.
No worries. And then when you got to the 300, I mean, as you said, you don't plan to make 300, so the celebration was just pure emotion, I'm guessing. And nothing was planned for that moment, I'm assuming.
Nothing at all. I think I was sort of just enjoying the moment out there, and then obviously when that six got hit, I just a lot of emotion and a lot of just that fire just came out. And just the big good old scream, which is the go-to.
Did you know what you were on throughout the innings? Was there a way of telling what your score was?
Yeah. So at Pratton we have a big scoreboard, and it was quite good to see that just go up, tick by tick.
And 35 sixes. I did watch the highlights back just before on cricket.com.au. You didn't bother to run for any of them, so as soon as you hit them, you knew they were sixes. Is that fair to say?
I'd say so, yeah.
Is there a favourite six from the 35?
I think you can't beat the one that's bring up the 300. I think that was one of my more favourite ones.
And your team finished on 5 for 483. Did you bother to field after that, or did you manage to put the feet up after it?
No. So I fielded the 50 as well.
Oh, well done. Yeah, wow.
I was doing couple I was quite thankfully I was hidden quite well in the field thanks to our captain Josh. I got put into like places where I was that long on for some bit of it, like still like you always want to get those 6 points, and I think like even when like a little thing can go either way, you still give it your 100%.
Yeah, great. Now, I did a bit of reading, and is it true that your father was a boxing champion and your mother was a state-level long jumper?
Yeah, that is true.
Right. So a lot of sporting pedigree in the family. Do you have other siblings as well who have also got the sporting gene?
No, so my sister's actually she's more on the academic side.
Okay, right. How do you fare on the academic side of things?
I'd like to say I gave it I wouldn't say I did the HSC. I'd say I sort of just participated. It was a bit more of a participation medal type thing.
And I noticed you got number 23 on the back of your shirt. Is there a reason for that number?
Nothing at all. I think it just looks quite cool.
That's good.
and that's probably about it. I think it's just an iconic number, and it's just just like it, to be honest.
Yeah, if you can.
It's actually a fun fact. I actually wanted to change it at the start of the year.
Really? Why?
I don't know. I just like the number 35 as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think I might be sticking with 23 for a long time now.
Yeah, fair. Unless you can fit 314 on your back, similar to what Chris Gale did when he got his 100.
Yeah, that would be quite good, but I think I'll stick to 23.
I like it, mate. Now, I do want to back up almost 2 years. Can you believe it's been almost 2 years since that World Cup final? You scored a very important 55 against India. How do you sort of reflect on that? Because, I mean, it was an amazing tournament where you guys beat, the heavy favourites. And, again, we're going to be seeing the results of that squad for many years to come in Australian cricket. So how do you sort of reflect on it 2 years on?
Well, I think that's, again, it's something that I can't exactly put a finger on. But I think, of course, it just went so quick, and it was so, personally, it was filled with ups and downs. I started off the tournament by getting COVID day one, and I was out for 4 or 5 days, just being in bed rotting pretty much.
Really?
And, pretty much just, bed rotting for the first 5 days, and then, of course, the tournament didn't exactly go my way at all. And again, being in the final, it was an unbelievable feeling. And so in that final, my thought process was to just go out and enjoy it. I should be, I was grateful to just be playing, to be honest, with the tournament I had. And yeah, it was a great feeling just going out there and doing the best I could for the team to get us over the line.
Did you feel like you're a chance to potentially lose your spot for that final?
Oh, 100%. I think after every game when you don't perform, you sort of think about, I could lose my spot here, I could lose my spot. But I think Anthony Clark, our coach, just had so much belief in me, and he'd been coaching me for years upon, so he sort of knew what I was capable of, which I was really grateful for. He definitely had that belief in me, which he had told me about as well. I think it was, that was a big turning point in the tournament where he told me, he's like, I believe in you, you can do this. And I think that really helped just boosting the confidence a little bit, especially when things aren't exactly going your way.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good to get that backing for sure. And it must be cool as well to see a lot of your teammates now going on to bigger and better things as well from that particular tournament.
Yeah, for sure. Sammy making his test debut, killing it in Shield, killing it in Aussie 8. And Huey as well, scoring 100 against WA to win his team the game. And then, of course, our quicks, our unbelievable quick attack, Marley, Tom Straker, Vidler, they're all ridiculous. Such bowlers, and that was an unreal team to play with, and the quality we had was just unmatched.
What are your sort of goals for this season? Are you going to set your hopes high, or where are you sort of aiming?
I think this season has been a big shift for me mentally to sort of just take it day by day and just take things slow and sort of just savor and enjoy the moment. And so coming into this season, I think my main 2 targets were getting some sort of involvement with a BBL team, maybe a local replacement player or something like that.
Yep.
And it was to play some second 11 cricket. So hopefully, I can still tick those 2 things off, but still going to need to do a lot more to get something going.
Absolutely. Have you been in touch with Greg Shippard, or do you have a relationship with him at the moment?
So for Career New South Wales, we have an under-23 squad, so I'm in that, and Shippy's there. Shippy and Ali are there quite often, just helping out, throwing balls, letting us pick their brains.
That's great.
Being little menaces, just asking stupid questions because we don't know anything. But yeah, they're great people to have around, and just having people like Jay, having people like Clarkey, having people Ali, Shippy, just all in and around that squad. It's actually quite a good place with a good bunch of cricketers as well. Every session you go and you come out a better player.
That's awesome. Harjas, thank you so much for your time. Great to chat to you, and good luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you very much. You have a good one.
Great interview, Josh, with Harjas Singh. And, it's fascinating hearing. We talked off the top of this podcast about that 2024 Under-19 World Cup winner, and the fact that he thought he was going to get dropped for that game, and he ended up being there. I think he might have been player of the final. So many great storylines kind of emerging out of that. About a year on from that World Cup win, I spoke to their coach, Anthony Clark, and Harjas was a guy who didn't get a contract kind of coming out of all this stuff. A lot of the top players did or were already contracted going into that World Cup. Your Sam Constance's, your Marley Beardmans, Hugh Wybgen has made his debut recently for Queensland. But he's had to go back to club cricket and really do it the hard way. And one of the things that Anthony Clark was really impressed with was how Harjas had worked on his fitness, and that was an area that he needed to improve. That he got told by Cricket New South Wales that if you want to play for us, that needs to lift. And look, I'm not saying he had to do a whole lot of running in that innings for Western Suburbs, but he has batted the majority of 50 overs, and swinging the bat for that long and hitting 35 sixes. I don't care if you're doing no running. That is tiring, and that requires a level of physical concentration that can be hard to do for 3.5 hours. So that's clearly improved. I just watched the 7 minutes highlights package on cricket.com.au of all 35 sixes, and the noises his teammates were making just after each six it's just great stuff.
It's brilliant. And you can just see the defeat on the bowler. Some of them, they just turn around. They're not even looking to see where the ball's gone because, as I said to Harjas, he doesn't even bother to run after he launches there. He's just standing and admiring. He knows they're going for six. So I'm not sure how big the boundaries are at Pratton Park, but that's not to take anything away from his hitting, because I'm sure he'd clear the rope on any ground in the Premier competition there.
And one of the reasons they stuck with him at that World Cup in 2024, the Under-19 World Cup, was how good he is against spin, and they knew that to beat India, they needed to be able to take on their spinners through the middle overs. And you could see in that video, like spin, he just deleted it. And you could see that they changed their tactics a bit. They've tried to go slower and wider, the spinners, and he was just all over them. So that's a great sign. And you've got to think that some big bash clubs are going to be looking at him.
Yeah, well, I wanted to ask you about that. What's your general feel about that? He sort of mentioned about potentially joining as a local replacement player. Do you think there would be an appetite for someone like him to bring him into their squad?
Absolutely. Well, I think the knock on club cricketers, that do this kind of thing at this level, I think the big bash teams go, well, they're not doing it against high pace. And when you get to the big bash or any high level T20 tournament, you're going from facing bowlers who are probably 120s, 125s to being able to hit 140K and hitting the top of your stumps more regularly. And that's a really hard one. Whereas bowlers, if you're good enough, like you're bowling, your good ball is a good ball at grade level, at international level, at big bash level. So I think the adjustment can be easier for bowlers who at that kind of mark. So for batters, it's going to be more difficult. The thing he's got in his advantage is he has come through the Australia Under-19 pathway. Recruiters look at that, really favourably. Like I think even guys who are like Harjas, who might play the junior stuff coming through, they go back to grade cricket. They always keep an eye on the Aussie Under-19 representatives. So because they know that they've been exposed to really good players at that level. So that'll work in his favour, and I guess he's just got to prove he can do it against better bowlers. I can't wait to see him get the opportunity.
Yeah, good luck to Harjas for the rest of the tournament. Hopefully we do see you in the Big Bash. That would be fantastic. Lou, now the Aussie white ball squads have been released for the India series that's coming up later this month. The big surprise for the ODI portion of the squad was Matthew Renshaw. Obviously, he played Test cricket, or debuted in Test cricket 7 years ago. He played as recently as 23, I want to say, in India. But now he hasn't played ODI cricket for Australia. So this is a potential debut, as well as a potential debut for Mitch Owen, who has obviously taken the T20 world by storm, but he's in Australia's one-day plans as well.
It's interesting with Matthew Renshaw, we forget the first test of the 2023 Border Gavaskar series in India, he got picked ahead of Travis Head. That's only 2 years ago. 2.5 years ago now. That's remarkable to kind of think back that there was a world in which Travis Head wasn't a first-picked player, not so long ago at all. They thought his play against spin would work through the middle overs. He ended up coming back into the series when David Warner got concussed and was kind of in and out. We haven't really seen any of him in international cricket since, but quietly, under the radar, he's averaging 50 since 21-22 in the one-day cup for Queensland. So his 50 over record is excellent. I think if he gets a go, it's probably through that middle order where he'll be tasked with navigating what India's high quality spinners can bring. India didn't pick Ravindra Jadeja on their in their squad to come out to Australia, which is remarkable. Just the depth of the spin bowling talent that they have. So that'll be a big step up for Renshaw. I'm interested to see how he goes if he does get the chance in those 3 one-dayers. And then the rest of the side kind of picks itself. You've got Owen coming back in, Matthew Short coming back in, and Stark as well, all of them kind of having had some injuries in recent times before they then move on to the T20s.
Yeah, and even though Renshaw's done a lot of batting at the top of the order, you imagine he'd sort of slotted to the middle if he did play in this team?
I think so. I mean, I think they're pretty set with Trav Head, Mitch Marsh, even with Short coming back there. I don't think Renshaw is going to jump those guys to bat at the top of the order. You're also fitting in Josh Inglis back in there after he had a calf concern in the last T20 series. It can be a little bit hard to kind of remember the moving pieces of these sides because we're coming off a lot of T20 cricket and a little bit of one-day cricket up in the top end, which you were there for, Josh. So the ODI arena is probably the lesser of lesser importance just because right now just because of the T20 World Cup coming up next year. But that 2027 World Cup will roll around before too long.
Yeah, it will. Now, I just want to correct myself. Matt Renshaw debuted in Test cricket 9 years ago. Can you believe that? 9 years ago, 2016. So he's been around for quite a long time. He was very young when he made that Test debut. So good to see him back around the squad. He hasn't thrown in the towel just yet. It's good to see him back. Now, the other one, Lou, who I wanted to touch on there was Glenn Maxwell. Fractured his wrist or forearm after getting hit by a Mitch Owen ball in the nets. Do you have an update on Maxwell? Are we going to see him before the Big Bash?
It's a great question. We only really know what we're kind of getting told. We haven't had a kind of formal prognosis given as yet. At this stage, it looks like he will be back for the Big Bash. Whether he can fit in some games for Victoria before then is an interesting one. It was funny when I spoke to Matt Short for a feature interview that I did a week or two ago. It just happened to be on the morning after Maxwell got hit. Short was batting in the next net and to Mitch Owen and said Owen absolutely smoked this ball back at Maxwell and it hit him on the forearm and left him with a bit of an unfortunate injury. So that's kind of all we know at this point. So everyone will be excited to see him back in action.
Just on Short, let's talk about that article you put together. He's been going through some unconventional approaches to improve his bat swing and his approach at the crease. Do you want to just sort of tell us what he's been going through there?
Yeah, well, it's something that dates back quite a while now to probably 4 or 5 years into his professional career where he wasn't really, setting the world alight and he was along, not even in the consideration for Australian duties. And one of the things that Chris Rogers, who took over as coach at Victoria that season, kind of exposed him to, along with some help from another coach called Jared Loftman, was just looking at how a baseball swing could help him hit good balls for six in a nutshell. So he was excellent at kind of playing the back foot punches that we see him do, stands tall and hits through the offside. He had a pull shot and he's very good driving down the ground because he's a tall guy and he could access those areas. But he was kind of getting found out either when teams would bowl Yorkers to him at the death or when he was batting in the top order and they'd hit the top of the stumps. He just couldn't do much with it. That's not a problem that was unique to him. That's, every batter struggles around that length. But he kind of goes, well, how can I basically hit that ball for six or four? And, one of the things that really clicked with him was this baseball swing, which it's kind of like a 45-degree or horizontal bat swing where you kind of simultaneously lean back. So you tilt your body back while also kind of throwing all your weight into your front leg. So it's a different type of swing to your traditional, what you get taught cricket growing up. And now, I think everyone who's watched him play, that shot that he plays over the leg side, that's basically the baseball swing, that one that he just kind of picks up off, the top of middle, even top of off stump and hits it for six over square leg. That's essentially the baseball swing that he worked on and it's working wonders for him now.
Yeah, wow. Do other players employ this tactic as well or is he sort of a pioneer in this field?
No, it's definitely not. He definitely isn't the first person to do this. Well, where he's a little bit different, and he spoke really well about this, is him kind of realising what he is good at and what he's not good at. And what he recognises is, especially now, he looks around the changing room, and Tim David and Marcus Stoinis and even Mitch Owen now, these guys can hit that length ball that we're talking about for six without worrying too much about their mechanics. And they can get kind of 70 or 80% of it, so they don't hit it out of the middle of the bat, and it goes for six anyway. Short isn't like that. He's a bit leaner. He doesn't have the massive forearms of, or the massive, or the amazing kind of wrist snap that someone like Maxwell has. So he's had to work on. He's had to really think about the technique of this kind of thing. So he's definitely not the first one to do it. But he has kind of done it in his own way, and I think it's an interesting story.
Yeah, it's cool to hear the amount of thought process that goes into the mechanics of all the swings and things. So nice work, Lou. You can obviously catch that article on the CA Live app if you're interested. The Sheffield Shield got underway over the weekend. It's our favourite time of year when this competition starts rolling. The big result that we should start with perhaps was Victoria's victory over South Australia, reigning champions on their own patch as well at the Adelaide Oval. Fergus O'Neill got runs in both innings, Lou. Ollie Peake, as you said, was very impressive towards the end. And we almost saw a hat-trick from Jordan Buckingham. Where do you want to start with this one?
Yeah, well, maybe with that. I mean, that was, one of the things I didn't mention off the top with Peake was he got dropped first ball. Buckingham came back for a second spell and was bowling beautifully, and Nick Marcus Harris off, and then he's bowling at Peake. He's on a hat trick and he hits one straight to short leg. It was a very difficult catch.
He's calling that a drop?
Hunt, it must be said. Oh, well, it's a drop, sure, but not if those stick, then it's a bonus really. And I think Peake would have been unlucky if he had gone out that way. But Wes Agar and Buckingham, two former Victorians themselves, they were kind of up and about all game, and it looked like they were going to bowl South Australia to victory. It didn't quite pan out that way. An interesting one for Fergus O'Neill. He's made runs in both innings. He probably didn't set the world alight with the ball. Mitch Perry probably shaded him as Victoria's kind of classy swing bowler in that game. And obviously Scott Boland got back into his work and looked really good as that game went on. A couple of other cracking games, a couple of other interesting games, I should say. I wouldn't say the Queensland-Tasmania game, Josh, was necessarily a cracker. You look at that, the scorecard, 27 wickets in 4 days of play. Maybe the balance of that pitch was slightly tilted in the favour of the batters, and then the complete opposite over in Perth, when New South Wales have gotten over Western Australia on a green seamer.
Yeah, and New South Wales coach Greg Shipperd has called for a bit of understanding, certainly around Sam Constance's situation. He said don't judge him too harshly, because that was pretty tough for batting over there. And only Will Zaltzman, really, of all people, was able to sort of master the conditions. He was batting at 7 for New South Wales, and I think top scored in both innings for them. So very impressive stuff from the young bloke, who was another one of these former under-19 quicks there. But it was a pretty convincing win for New South Wales in the end, under the leadership of Nathan Lyon, in the absence of Jack Edwards, who's over with Australia A. And, I must say I didn't see this one coming, because it's a bit undermanned, that New South Wales side at the minute, but they got the job done.
Yeah, it's an interesting one what Greg Shipperd is saying about Constance. On the one hand, he's right, and the batting at the top of the order on those kinds of Sheffield Shield wickets is really tough. On the other hand, they're the kind of wickets that we're getting in Test cricket in Australia. So, maybe the wickets, maybe the Test wickets aren't going to be doing quite as much as what they got over at the Wacker there. But he will be facing better bowlers. Joel Paris is an excellent bowler. Matthew Kelly is an excellent bowler. Mark Wood, Joffa Archer, Gus Atkinson are better. So he needs to prove that, maybe it's just he needs to get to 30, or maybe he needs to find a way of, either going really hard and scoring quickly, or finding a way of surviving 15, 20 overs. You got to prove you're better than the level you want to get out of. So, yes, it was difficult for all the top order batters, but he's trying to elevate himself to the next level. That's kind of what I'd say. But yeah, you look down the scorecards, and the runs are being made by your 6s and your 7s when the ball's a bit older and it's a little bit easier to bat. So yeah, I mean, you absolutely got to take what Marnus Labuschagne was batting on over at Allan Border Field was completely different. So, yeah, it's apples and oranges.
And what do we make about the Marnus Labuschagne situation? As you touched on, 160 off only 206 balls there at AB Field. He's been left out of the white ball squads for Australia, even though he's been a constant in that 50-over side for a little while now. Where are you sort of seeing his summer shaping up? Is he still in contention for the Test spot?
Absolutely, he's in contention. Look, we probably didn't learn a whole lot from this. We already knew Marnus Labuschagne was an excellent player and that he's probably too good for the Sheffield Shield. The question is he good enough to open the batting? Probably, because we think the 3 and 4 spots are sewn up by Green and Smith respectively. But, can he open the batting with Usman Khawaja? And I don't think, against really good high-quality bowling that we've talked about just before. So I don't think, him making 160 against Bird, Gabe Bell, Kieran Elliott, all really good bowlers when the wicket has a little bit in it, but not the high pace that he'd be facing against England. So I'm looking more to see how Marnus goes in the next few games, and particularly if they get on a green seamer, how he deals with some of those types of bowlers that could really challenge him on those kinds of wickets, how he goes with that, because I think that will give a better indication of if he can do for a job for Australia this summer.
Jake Weatherald as well did his chances no harm. First time that he's sort of probably had a bit of extra added pressure given the speculation around his chances as well. I think he got half centuries in both innings. So good signs from him, but he's probably still maybe a big score or two short of pushing his way in at this stage.
100%. I think he would have been looking at what Marnus did and gone, geez, I've batted well in both innings, but, only 27 wickets have fallen across the 4 days. To really elevate yourself, he probably needs to be going big with a 160 rather than a couple of 50s. Again, the proof will be in the pudding. He will play on more challenging wickets down in Belrive Oval, before the Ashes starts, and those often do quite a lot, particularly early in the season. So he's done it before. He did it last season where he fought off really tough new ball spells on tough wickets. So we know he can do it. Can he do it at the right time, I suppose, is the question.
Great to have the Sheffield Shield back, Lou. Now, I really enjoyed the story you put together earlier in the week as well. Fergus O'Neill has got some advice and some help from an international quality bowler, but in an interesting space. So can you give us a bit of info about who he's been talking to about his bowling?
Yeah, Fergus O'Neill is a really interesting character. I really hope that he plays for Australia in the next couple of years because I think he will win people over just on the force of his character. Been an excellent Sheffield Shield bowler over the last 2 or 3 seasons and went over to play for Nottinghamshire, his first kind of playing stint abroad. And he could only play 4 games because he was limited to a 28-day visa under the UK Home Office's rules. They've actually changed that rule since. So if he goes back probably to Nottinghamshire next season, he will be able to play for longer. But what he did was he went on holiday with Will Sutherland and Campbell Kellaway after playing for Nottinghamshire. I think they went over to Europe and Portugal and Spain. And he came back and he trained a little bit more with Nottinghamshire. And Mohammad Abbas had replaced him, the Pakistan veteran who's taken, I think he took his 800th first-class wicket this season and has been a very successful test bowler, bowling at a very similar pace to Fergus O'Neill. So the two of them talked a little bit about bits and pieces. And one of the things Ferg mentioned was, not only seam position, but also how Abbas brings his keeper up to the stumps and uses that as a tactic. So batters, when they're facing guys who probably bowl, mid 120s, high 120s, they come out of their crease because they know that if they can negate that good length, they've got the pace covered. But when the keeper's up, you've got to be standing in your crease. So, not being ashamed, I guess, of using that tactic and knowing that you're going to do it slightly different to a Mitchell Stark or a Shoaib Akhtar in Mohammad Abbas's case. So he's prospered from that. And the question is, could Ferg do a similar job at test level? I think he could if he was given the right conditions. Australia play an Ashes test at Trent Bridge where he played for Nottinghamshire in 2027. And they also play in South Africa next year. And that's not to mention some of the spicy wickets he could get in Australia. Look, he's a little bit further back in the pack and he's not going to be replacing Mitch Stark or Pat Cummins anytime soon. But I wouldn't rule him out of a baggy green in the near future.
I like it. Now, I didn't watch a lot of his bowling at the Adelaide Oval over the past couple of days, but did he call Sammy Harper up to the stumps at any stage?
Good question. I didn't watch enough of it either, unfortunately. I was off work and I was looking after my little one for a little bit of it, so didn't get a whole lot of Sheffield Shield watching time. But just looking through his figures, he was kind of going in the threes and over, which surprisingly is actually quite a lot for him. So I'm just looking at the figures and thinking maybe didn't bowl at his absolute best. He also got a chance in India during the A series that's just finished up and learnt quite a lot bowling over there and certainly impressed, I believe, the Australia high performance staff who reckon he might be a little bit quicker than what some people think. So he's certainly on the radar, and he'll be looking for another really good Shield season.
From an Aussie point of view, Lou, it was great to see Cameron Green return to the bowling crease over there in the West. He took a wicket in his second over, I believe, and took a couple of very sharp catches in the gully, which we know he's always been so good at. Didn't get any runs on that tricky wicket, but he got through the bowling crease unscathed, so great signs for Australia.
Yeah, that's right. Only 4 overs, and he did say before the game that he would be limited to 8. It turns out he also had a restriction that he couldn't bowl in consecutive days. So CA are rightly being very cautious with him. They really just want to, transition him back into bowling at match intensity. We know he had the back surgery last year, and that was a really serious operation. And he's going to have some high-level cricket in the ODIs against India as well. So I think he's going to play 3 Shield games for WA before the Ashes. All of them are going to be in Perth. That probably helps from a not having to fly on a plane point of view. Like your back cramped in on a 3 or 4 hour flight over from Perth probably doesn't help someone like him. But then I reckon he'll be in tip-top shape come the Ashes. The big question will be, does he bat 3? Does he bat 4? I saw there was a report today suggesting that him and Smith could swap spots in the order to potentially allow him to bowl a little bit more. Does he even go all the way down to 6? Has been mooted by some people, and Bo Webster, unfortunately would miss out in that scenario. I think he looks good at 3. I thought he's really starting to show some signs that he can bat there basically at test level. So that'll be an interesting watch leading into the Ashes, Josh.
Yeah, we didn't see Bo Webster play this round of the Shield, did we? Because he had a bit of an injury concern, I believe, Lou.
Yeah, picked up an ankle injury. Must have been the day before their game against Queensland, because he was named in their squad and then wasn't on their team sheet on the first morning. So it looked like that it wasn't particularly serious, and that he was even a chance to play in the one-day game that will be happening today as people listening to this. So, keep an eye on that, but hopefully no ramifications for his Ashes hopes.
Always great to have the Sheffield Shield back on our screens. Now, the Unplayable Podcast has a new series coming out starting this Monday, the October 13th. It's the top 25 matches of the century. We've gone through over 1,500 Aussie matches since the year 2000 and have tried to whittle them down to the top 25. So if you're interested in that, tune in this Monday. It'll be on your Unplayable Podcast feeds. Lou, any early calls for what you might want to say at the top of that list?
Give me the qualifications again. So top 25 Australian test matches.
Well, any match involving Australia, men or women, ODI, T20s or tests. And it's ranked based on the context of the match, what's on the line. It's based on the star players who are involved and the big performances. Any drama, how close was the match? All those things have been considered when we have picked our best matches of the century.
And it doesn't have to be Australian wins.
That's right. That's right.
Well, I mean, the best test match you'd have to say is probably 2019 Headingley. That's not going to be a popular one for Australian fans, but, seeing a player, Ben Stokes drag his side back from, needing 134 for the last wicket, that's probably the most spectacular. From an Australian point of view, I'm thinking more recently the Border Gavaskar test, Boxing Day test last summer where Australia won the last session was an absolute belter. Their win at Edgbaston in 2023 during that Ashes where Pat Cummins got them home, that was an absolute cracker. I'm going to guess that all 3 of those are in your top 25. You don't have to tell me whether any of those were number 1.
They all place. And yes, as you said, we've tried to be as impartial as possible. So Australian wins aren't ranked higher than Australian losses. It's just the way it's panned out. We've gone for a purely neutral point of view.
You know what? Now I think about it, if you're saying Test, ODI and T20, and I'm just looking at it from the men's point of view because I've covered them a lot more than the women. But I would say my number one would probably be Ahmedabad 2023 World Cup final, which you were there for. Like in terms of planning, precision, execution, overturning the odds, that game stands out to me as just an absolute epic miracle, really.
I love it, Lou. Okay, it'll be matches 25 to 21 this Monday, October 13. Do join us then. Lou, thanks for joining us on this episode of the Unplayable Podcast. We'll be doing a lot with you during the Ashes. Can't wait for that. But thanks again for this episode.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for Kane Richardson for letting me keep his seat warm.